Deep within the tranquil landscapes of Derbyshire's Peak District lies a tale of adventure that ended in tragedy. It was March 1959 when the dark depths of Peak Cavern claimed the life of a young explorer named Neil Moss. But this was no ordinary accident. Join us as we delve into the mystery surrounding Neil's death and uncover the chilling truth hidden in the shadows. Neil Moss, born on July 28, 1938, was a vibrant young man, always seeking new thrills and eager to explore the unknown. Studying philosophy at Balliol College, Oxford, Neil came from a privileged background, his father being a prominent figure in the British cotton industry. But Neil was more than just a scholar. He possessed a deep passion for sports and an insatiable curiosity for the world of caving, a hobby that was gaining immense popularity during that time. In his first year at university, Neil became a member of the British Speleological Association, BSA, a renowned caving group established in 1935. The BSA had made notable discoveries, including the extensive cave system known as Lancaster Hall. Neil quickly became a beloved member of the club, actively participating in thrilling caving expeditions. Driven by a thirst for adventure, Neil ventured further into the enchanting world of caving. Although he wasn't the most experienced, his skills were commendable. On March 22, 1959, Neil and 7 fellow caving enthusiasts embarked on a day trip to Castleton, a picturesque English village nestled in the heart of the Peak District. The allure of Peak Cavern, one of the region's most renowned caves, captivated their imaginations. Situated amidst the breathtaking Derbyshire countryside, Castleton presents a postcard-perfect scene with its rolling hills and a network of vast caves that beckon both thrill-seekers and nature lovers alike. Among these caves, Peak Cavern stands as the crown jewel, boasting the title of the largest cave system in the entire Peak District. Peak Cavern is truly one of those natural wonders that stand out from all the other caves around here. What's really cool about it is that it wasn't created by mining like some of the others. It's all the work of nature, just doing its thing. It's got quite a few chambers waiting to be explored, not to mention a fascinating history. Can you believe that once upon a time, there were rope makers who actually lived in this cave? They used it as both their home and their workshop. Nowadays, Peak Cavern has become quite a popular spot for locals. You see, on March 22, 1959, Neil and his team embarked on an exciting adventure. They decided to explore a recently discovered passageway that was located about half a mile from the entrance of the cave. Believe it or not, this passage had been found just 2 weeks earlier, and cavers from all over the UK were itching to check it out. So, on that day, they arrived at Peak Cavern all ready to go. They had to squeeze through some really tight spots, like 1,000 feet underground. After about an hour of navigating through these narrow passages, they stumbled upon an opening. This opening led them straight to a huge chamber that hadn't even been named yet. This was the exact spot they were hoping to explore. The chamber they found was absolutely breathtaking. The entire group just froze in awe as soon as they laid eyes on it. The natural beauty was simply mesmerizing. And as they looked around, they couldn't help but notice a narrow shaft that had been discovered just a couple of weeks before. It was like a mysterious hole in the ground, teasing them with all the uncharted wonders it held. 4 members of the group had actually been part of the team that discovered this shaft earlier. So, they knew exactly what they were dealing with. This wasn't your average shaft. No way. It was all twisted and turned, presenting a real challenge for them. It was about 40 feet deep, you know. Just to be safe, they decided to lower a 75-foot ladder into the hole, in case it went deeper than anticipated. And then came that crucial moment when they had to decide who would be the brave soul to go down first. Neil was a tall guy, standing at 6 feet, and he was pretty slim too. So, he thought he could handle being the first one to venture down that challenging shaft. That shaft was like a maze. It started off tilted, then twisted and inclined for about 12 feet, and finally took a straight drop for 18 feet. Neil began his descent, being careful and calculating every move. When he reached about 40 feet down, he hit a bit of a snag. Some small boulders were blocking his path. Can you imagine how tight and claustrophobic it must have been? Neil had to twist himself into an awkward position just to try and clear those rocks from his way. It was no easy task. Neil, who found himself in quite a predicament. While he was climbing down a ladder, he accidentally got it jammed, leaving him stuck in complete darkness between the ladder and the shaft wall. After struggling for about half an hour, Neil realized he couldn't free himself. He had no choice but to call out to his teammates above and let them know that he was stuck and couldn't move an inch. In a stroke of ingenuity, Neil suggested that his teammates lift the ladder while he held on. They managed to move him a little bit, but then the ladder got jammed again, and they had to come up with a new plan. Nobody was panicking at this point. They knew what to do. They started a rescue operation, dropping a rope down to Neil. He thought he'd be out in no time. The team lowered the rope, and Neil tied it around himself. They started pulling, but the shaft had sharp turns and, unfortunately, the rope snapped within seconds. But they didn't give up. They tried again with a different rope. This time, Neil was lifted about 2 feet before the rope broke once more. The situation was starting to get serious, and poor Neil was still stuck. As things began to look grim, some of the cavers ran off to get help. Volunteers from all over England quickly came to Peak Cavern to lend a hand in rescuing Neil. It wasn't just the locals either. Even the RAF, police, and Navy joined in. But as time passed, they encountered another problem they hadn't expected. Because Neil was wedged so tightly, the little bit of air circulating in the shaft was cut off. This led to a dangerous buildup of carbon monoxide, all coming from Neil's breath. The air became thick and foul, making it clear that the situation was becoming critical. Neil started losing consciousness, and everyone realized they had to work fast if they wanted to save him. The rescuers tried sending experienced cavers down one after the other, hoping to reach Neil, but the toxic air turned them back every time, with some even passing out from the fumes. One brave volunteer named Ron Peters managed to reach Neil and tie a rope around him, but it only made his breathing even more difficult. Ron had to remove the rope and retreat. In a desperate attempt, they brought oxygen tanks to Castleton and tried pumping oxygen down to Neil through a tube with the help of a doctor. But despite all these efforts, they just couldn't get him out. Time was slipping away, and the pressure was mounting. The rescuers were running out of ideas. They came up with a daring plan. If someone could reach Neil and withstand the toxic air, they were willing to break his collarbone to free him. But alas, nobody could get close enough. They even called in Bubbly, one of England's top cavers, but even he couldn't make a difference. Sadly, by the morning of the second day, things took a turn for the worst. Dr. John Carter, an RAF doctor who was closely monitoring the situation, had to declare Neil Moss dead on March 24, 1959. Everyone present, the rescuers, Neil's fellow cavers, was devastated by the outcome. Neil's dad waited anxiously outside the cave, his heart heavy with grief. It was his decision that no more lives should be endangered in the attempt to retrieve Neil's lifeless body. Making that call was incredibly difficult, but he couldn't bear the thought of anyone else facing the same tragic fate as his son. Neil's dad requested that his son's remains be left undisturbed and the shaft be sealed. In compliance with his wishes, they filled the shaft with rocks. It turned out that Neil had perished due to excessive carbon dioxide in his bloodstream, a truly harrowing way to meet one's end. Despite the immense bravery displayed in such treacherous conditions, there was extensive criticism of the disorganized and mishandled rescue efforts. The media coverage was far from sympathetic towards the cavers and the entire caving community, with some even calling for a ban, labeling it as irresponsible and perilous. However, as we know, that did not come to pass. Neil's story became widely notorious in Castleton and continues to be a topic of discussion to this day. The chamber near the fateful shaft where he became trapped was ultimately named Moss Chamber in his honor, with an inscription on the wall serving as a lasting memorial to Neil and the tragic events that unfolded in the depths. Undeniably, the incident was a profound tragedy, but it is crucial to acknowledge the remarkable efforts of the rescuers. Some of them had never set foot underground before, yet they spared no effort in attempting to save Neil. This ordeal had a profound impact on the Derbyshire Cave Rescue Organization, leading to the adoption of improved rescue techniques and safety measures that remain in place today. Despite its haunting history, Peak Cavern remains one of England's most famed and significant show caves, attracting numerous visitors each year. As for Neil, may he rest in peace. If you have any thoughts or insights regarding cave exploration and the associated risks, please feel free to share them in the comments below.